Greetings, I am Lies and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together.
Speaking of which, I don't see any food anywhere.
Not to mention food storage. I don't have any food anywhere. Nor do I believe in food storage.
Okay. Have you eaten today? Maybe this is why you are so hungry.
You are trying to caretake for me and I resent it. Muriel gradually comes closer to loom over Asra's shoulder as he hunts for food in his bag. I'm not sure if Muriel is hunting for the food in the bag, or Asra is, but it's probably Asra.
I'm assuming so, since Asra was the last one mentioned there.
Almost certainly, but still, I kind of can picture Muriel just coming over and starting to root around in Astra's bag because of familiarity and knowing he will have food in there.
Yeah, pretty much.
That could work too. Right. Meanwhile, the wolf comes trotting over to me, licking her lips. She regards me with insistent curiosity. Or maybe she's trying to tell me to leave? Like Muriel. Her aura is guarded and obscure.
Oh.
I haven't described everyone's aura, but the two of them is nothing but aura. All the time. Oh my god! It's a premium scene? With a doggy?
Well,
Sorry.
With the wolf.
The wolf.
With the wolven.
With the wolf.
Canis lupus?
Yes, Canis lupus.
With Canis lupus?
With the canine.
And obviously, if you guys know us, we're gonna do it.
I was
Because Astra's route is literally about what would actually happen if we tried to, in basically character, and build off of all the information they have given us for this route.
I say, additionally, going, if we assume that somehow every premium scene has to do with the romance outside of the game, then we assume inside the game that Kohai would naturally choose whatever the scene is because their behavior would tend towards whatever is romantic.
Right, because it's about romance.
It is not about them being aware that this is a premium scene or us going, we're going to try and finagle our way into it. It's the character is intentionally designed to be a person who would naturally do all of the things that the premium scenes offer.
Yes.
Yes. So in this case, Kohai has been a friendly and affectionate person.
Yeah.
And also has been warm and interested in animals before, such as, Faust and also the Beast. And
Right. Also Beast.
So we're going to totally pet the wolf. And as I understand it, my friend has done the research already for this scene.
Yes. So just in case you don't know, we are going to go into some premium art that we actually got from a lovely person who you can find all of their information down below by the name of Draconisha. They are a fantastic artist, and if you want to support them, please feel free to go check out their links in the description down below. But we are going to basically show their art instead of Nix Hydra's art, and we are going to ad-lib everything until we get out of the scene, and then we'll let you know when we're done, and then we might talk a little bit about it, or sometimes we talk about it in the middle of it, because sometimes stuff is just too shocking.
I was going to say, so in our agreement with Nix Hydra to do this playthrough, we have to censor everything that they created for the premium scenes.
Yes, because they want you to spend money.
I was going to say, which is why ad-libbing and cover-up art.
Yes.
I was going to say, that is why we do those things. And Draconisha has decided generously to do beautiful chibi art. They also do many other more detailed art as they're insistent to let you know.
Yes.
That this is a very simple version of what they do, though I think it is adorable
I
and
think
beautiful
it's very
and
precious.
lovely.
It works really great, honestly, for very simple illustrations. It gets the point across very quickly. Honestly, it's fantastic fucking art.
It's well done. It's concise and appealing. All right, I would say, but we haven't seen the illustration yet.
And
so
we will look at it at the end.
While it's going to be edited in real time for you guys, for us, we're going to look at it and react to it at the end.
Yes.
But we are going to
Pet the wolf!
pet the wolf.
All right. So we are going to pet the wolf.
Kohai uses a limb to attempt to do the stroking of the fur, but the wolf seems wary. The body language up on the head with the listening appendages is indicating
flatten a bit back.
this might not be the greatest idea, but Kohai persists. And there is some...
It seems to be perhaps some gently enough persuasion for petting to actually be able to ensue, at least on the facial region.
at least the top of the face.
Yep, around the eyebrows.
Yep, right around the top of the face. And then Kohai decides to get a little more brave because there's no other reaction.
And actually takes more of their fingernails/fingertips and tries to actually dig into the fur, sort of between the pointy fluffers.
As some people say,
in the way that actually, apparently, that Asra has done so.
I'll say some people also call it itching. Itching the wolf's head.
Yeah, but it's not always the same. And then, of course, then apparently Inanna is actually really into it and actually puts their body weight into it.
Yes.
Like there's an actual physical movement
like
towards
lean
you.
towards you and like that thing where like cats sort of rub their head into the pet. A little bit like that.
Yep. And the thing is that there is the note though, of course, that Inanna has sharp twofers.
Yes.
But there is actually just that notice while Inanna actually just gently plaps at your
does some blems.
Does some lems
blem,
on your little hand.
Yep, and the lower part of your arm. So there is the
in
scritching,
between your palm and your forearm.
There's the very tentative peps and rubbing, and then there is the deeper screeching, and
Inanna rewards you with licks.
Mlems. Yep, with licks.
And then actually, when Kohai's like, okay,
you have gotten all of the strokes
because there is probably a shift in body posture.
Though it's not described.
No, it's not described, but there is then actually a description. The dog basically does a bunny
flops,
and just
makes a noise.
Oh, it's just so happy. And then actually she'll look at you
and waits. She's expectant. There's a pregnant pause. As she's on the floor, just flopped and spread out.
And then of course there's the bearing of the belly up towards you, and there's specifically the raising of a hind limb to be like, excuse me,
do you not understand what to do when a belly is presented to you?
You scribble.
You need
your fingers all over it
to rub.
And then of course, actually it's not quite actually on the tummy, so that's actually on the hindquarters.
So the interesting thing is while the tummy has been presented, Kohai goes for the hip.
Yes, that's what I said, the hindquarters.
Yep, and then there's that experience,
and it's very happy,
you sort of just straighten everything out to full reach.
The limb that has been put up actually just starts straightening out, going
spreading the toes, ooh.
Yeah, I love it when critters do that. And Asra's like, oh my god. I sort of like that encouraging, sort of surprised, like, oh my god, they're being affable.
Please
look
observe.
At this. Wow, check it out. And Nana is being social.
Like positively social.
Open.
And then Muriel's like, positively social?
What?
Social in an amenable way?
Ugh. And then actually, Muriel even comes over to us.
Decides immediately to leave Asra's side and move probably one step across the cabin.
That's all it takes.
Singular step.
Or a half step.
And then just visually
stares down at you as you just continue
to stroke down the
dog, like so much, just fur, making it smooth and silky and beautiful.
Just running your hands in the proper direction, but also doing circles, wax on, wax off.
And Kohai is just going makes a very stated experience of going, Inanna is good.
Inanna is just lovely. Inanna is just fantastic. Friendly.
Inanna is very good.
And then Muriel looks ferocious.
Actually, that is... So remember the angry face that we pointed out before? It's that fucking angry face. And he's just like,
dark shadows around the eyes.
There are chompers. This wolf has some chompers and she will use them on you. Like it is sharp and hard.
Inanna mauls things.
Basically, yes. Inanna is aggressive, yes.
He just goes...
She uses her teeth on things.
Yeah, so basically he's just like...
Probably you.
She is a beware of dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, very, very decisive, very assertive in the way that he's like disagreed with Asra. Mm-hmm. We're like, goodness, what a good pupper. And he's like, mean pupper.
Yeah, right. And actually...
And then we observe...
There's the observation that actually the way that Muriel actually, his expression is so intense... The wolf actually responds by sort of turtling their head backwards into their own body. It's so extreme, which actually probably means...
Sort of recoils from him.
Yeah, actually pulls away because, like, he's so frightening. And I imagine that probably means that you have kind of too, because, like, holy shit. What does this fucking mean, though?
Though it doesn't describe us having any reaction.
No,
it's just,
which is strange.
It's, Kohai looks up and is warm and affable about this cool experience I'm having. He is responsive with aggressive and contradictory, and then makes a strong, intentional face at the dog, like an expression. And the good wolf is like, I will scoot back into myself and recoil away because
like,
this is so
I am
intense.
literally turtling. I am pulling the box turtle behavior of yanking my head back into my body because I am so uncomfortable. Yeah. But again, I'm like, what does that fucking mean? Why would he be so contradictory? And why would he be so basically mean and insistent that Inanna likes to attack people?
Why would he be aggressive to his own wolf?
Who is also, I imagine, his familiar, as it were.
Since everyone seems to have one, that'd be my best guess.
But I'm like, that's really mean, actually. Like,
that's harsh. I mean,
that's aggressive.
So and
it feels unnecessary.
The only thing that I can guess, my best guess here, would be that it's supposed to be that behavior, and I'm going to kind of contrast this in somewhat a funny way, like Disney's Beast. If I'm jealous or offended, I get aggressive.
Oh.
So if my friend, my pet, my companion, my whatever I see her as, is friendly to you, I see that as a threat. So I come in to aggressively separate
I try to shut it down.
Yep, I try to make it stop.
That's terrible.
And my best guess from the lore we've experienced so far would be, you're already taking my best friend away from me, which is Asra.
And Asra has already manipulated you basically into an interesting space like he has with Julian. So Muriel is very mixed up and is like, I hate this, and now you're also going to take away my animal familiar companion.
You don't get to charm things in my life. You're the bad guy.
Yeah.
You don't get to say things
are
are
we
nice
going to actually
and
have character conflict?
I don't
where
know.
Other people are actually going to be like, I don't support this. This fucking pisses me off.
That's very interesting.
And maybe they'll actually like go into conflict with each other
over
you because they're like, you're doing this to me, but it's also because of him. Maybe they're realizing like Asra has been manipulative.
So interestingly, since for like 2 or 3 frames here, Kohai has not responded at all.
No, not
and
even
hasn't
slightly.
Reacted physically or emotionally in any way. It might be moving back towards the more passive, less present
main character
that they usually have. But let's see what the next line is.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no main character interaction at all. We don't, Kohai says or feels nothing other than describing Inanna's recoiling, and then Asra's talking.
And even if you take it as that's just simply your character's perception, I know, based on how everything else fucking works in this story, whatever your character tells you is going on is basically word of God. Which is really frustrating, because if you use first-person perspective, it's so much fun to use first-person perspective to send the readers off in the wrong direction.
To understand
misdirect
only what the character understands, not what's necessarily true. But in this case, it's just Asra agreeing with Muriel's assessment of Inanna's behavior.
That Inanna does indeed like to nip at people and chomp. And he's like, well, yeah.
And
yet, she also enjoy very much
the scritches.
The
rubs.
She loved to be rubbed down. She loved to be touched.
And then
Muriel actually looks much softer towards, I'm assuming, Asra in this case.
But still very grumpy and put out.
Sort of lets a little bit of his aggression go. Like, this sounds like sort of releasing or giving some of the high ground to him.
He's making
basically
a concession.
Going like, he's making a concession of going like, well, it's because you've basically ruined her, or you've given her too many treats, you've given her too many special things.
It's saying that this behavior generally exists singularly in a time when Asra is being super generous to Inanna.
Yes, which I also, so I'm going to, now going off of your point, I'm going to make a minor stab at the very slim possibility, and also that it might literally only exist for this little bit, that the instance with Inanna being pet and scritched by you and it's being very affectionate is also reflective of basically who Muriel really is, which is that Muriel would like to actually have physical contact. He's big, he's scary, he has blood on him, but he would really love to be squished and fluffed, because then he sort of, lets Asra have it, as it were, even if it's kind of reluctantly.
It's the sort of thing of he would also like to open up and be vulnerable and receive affection and love and warmth. But he can't do that, and so he doesn't want his dog to do that, and he's saying it's basically completely special, or should be, to Asra.
Yes.
And which I think is sort of a mirror of him talking about himself, of going, I really only open up to you, and saying my dog should really only open up to you, because she is a part of my life and therefore should reflect my interests.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like. It doesn't say all of that, but it does specifically
like
say...
Like I said, thematically it seems to be implying that. So we're talking about story themes now.
It does seem
which sort of
in the way of when Julian was there, it feels very much like they're talking about two things at once.
Yes, exactly. So there's that sort of, we're talking about one thing, but we're reading between the lines now, us as the players, to infer that there might be something else going on here, which is possible, but also frustrates me, because even if I was doing this, I'd still be like, the more that I've seen Muriel, I almost want nothing to do with him, because he's incredibly combative and closed off, and like, I don't care if what he really wants is that thing. I would rather respect what someone fucking says, and mostly seems to physically do, and how they seem to respond. And that's what actually makes me more and more frustrated. The more we get to know him...
If Muriel shows up and says, get the fuck out, you should go, okay, I'm gonna leave, so thanks.
Bye.
And not go, oh no, but you really just need someone to push their way in and say, it's okay, you won't mind.
I'm sorry, I don't like cis-heteronormative guy behavior, which is a lot of where I usually see that, especially when you see like somebody else who acts very uncomfortable, and they go, no, honey, even if I've seen people get really aggressive and go, fucking leave me alone, they're like, oh my god, chill out. I'm just doing a thing for you. Let me get you a beer so you'll chill out.
Let me just force caretaking affection or my attention on you until you acquiesce to it, until you give up resisting, which is...
Because clearly...
I was going to say, which, no matter how good intended it is, and no matter how good intended it's written in your story, and no matter how sparkly and pure the character is ignoring consent.
It is.
It is non-consent.
Which is totally fine.
You can write
if that's what you want to write about, because again, stories have no obligation to be moral guides or do anything. They can just be for entertainment. They're not about it all have to be about education. They don't have to do anything with education. They can just be for funsies.
However, it is very, very valuable if the author knows what they're doing. And do they know they're writing a non-con?
Yes.
Or do they just go, he's being tsundere. And going, well, that's not non-con. They really like you, but they're telling you no, but you know that. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You don't know that. Okay, so he says that and directs this at Asra. And then...
Asra actually sort of has a rejoinder with him of being like, oh, me specifically.
Yes. It's just about me, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Which is, again, where I go, is this sort of like the threesome hint thing that, again, like you and I have, like, or at least me, I've been like, this sounds sort of like the possibility where they're going, excuse me, you could see yourself in between the sandwich, couldn't you?
I think they're also doing the, we need you to know that these two were involved. We needed you to know that Julian and Asra were involved sexually, not just knew each other, but it was like this. And it seems like they're trying to do something like that of going, we need you to know that Asra and Muriel were involved more than friends. It's very important.
Yes, which is fine.
Which is fine.
But I also find it to be very strange, because in the context of the story, what is it there for?
That's what I say. What's it for? What purpose is it serving?
So, in regards to... Okay, so one of the reasons why that I found the thing with Julian and Asra to be so off-putting was because it largely seemed to be there for fan service. Not that there's anything wrong with fan service, but in relation to the literal character you are supposed to be playing / the one you are reading... Your character literally gets no fucking answers from that. Asra refuses to answer. You don't ask any further questions. It literally becomes a dropped point. As far as I can tell right now.
Yes.
So I'm like, what was the point of that? It really was just to go, hey, now be horny? That feels a little exploitative. And also feels completely pointless. And again, you can have that, but I'm like, if you're looking for a coherent story with plot points and character development and everything else...
I was gonna say...
There's like, I'm like, it doesn't really feel like there's many characters here. It's just like sexy scenarios that you can sort of weirdly insert things into.
I was gonna say, if you're trying to write a story and you're trying to fit this in as a plot point, then it can't just be sexy fan service. You have to pick one. And so it seems like they're trying to go, here's the sexy fan service, but we're working it in as a plot point. And then they drop it and do not follow through, and the character then doesn't care anymore, so then it's not worked in as a plot point.
And they build it up as like, it seems like it's going to be this big plot point, because your character does go, oh my god, what was this about? I want to know what this relationship is. I care about this. And then they bring it up, They mention vaguely going, okay, I should ask her about this thing, and then the thing never gets discussed at all. Like, that's what I mean. Like, so here's your setup, and there's no follow-through.
There's no payoff.
There's no payoff. It's just a, yep, they were fucking, and that's kind of it.
And the thing is again, this is going to be informed by what the author is telling you is important.
Yes.
So when I mention that over and over again, it's in case you're ever reading you're reading literature and you're following along with a story and you ever lose suspension of disbelief and you don't know why.
Right.
Or when you just can't get into a book sometimes, or when you're writing your own work. Don't worry about telling everything there is to tell. Focus on what you want the reader to think is important.
Yes.
And then resolve that in some way.
Because, okay, so one of the things you also need to realize is that, and I've heard other authors talk about this, they're like, if it's not necessary for the most fucking part, do not mention it. Because people will go, this thing, you mentioned it. Unless it was basically a part of an exposition of this is what the world looks like, etc. Most people, because the reading literacy in just the United States has gone up on its own, more people are going to go, hey, you mentioned this thing, what the fuck is this thing? And if you make a big deal about this thing, people are going to go, where's this thing? And you're going to piss off your readers, and they're going to go, where's this thing? And they're going to be emailing you later going, where's this thing?
So for me, and this has nothing to do with romance and stuff.
That's fine.
There's an author, Brandon Sanderson, wrote a series of books called Mistborn.
Yes.
The character that I loved most, my biggest, if you will, blorbo or what have you from there, the one character that I was like, I would read this series again because he was cool as shit. Marsh. His story arc is not resolved.
Nope.
At the end of the third book is not resolved. And you know what I did? I wrote the author. And I wrote the author with such passion and questioning that he wrote me back and went, oh, well, the reason I didn't resolve his story was because he's an extremely private person and wouldn't share that information. And I'm like, you shared everyone else's information as basically a third-person experience, so he wouldn't be sharing it. And I'm like, this is the only character whose ending I was curious about. And he's like, well, I was thinking about doing something more with him later. I'm like, great, I want to be there for it.
Please!
But the thing is like, it's like mentioning, if your character is worried about a time constraint, if your character is worried about the history of someone, if your character is really concerned about where they're going to get their next meal, and then it's dropped, you need some kind of explanation of why your character doesn't care anymore, why their focus and interest has changed, which can totally happen.
Yes.
Sometimes the gun is next to your head, and that is all you can think about, but then when the gun is removed, you don't think about it again because it's not a big deal. Some people, it's traumatic and they think about it forever. Other people, they're like, that's not important right now. What's important right now is I need a damn bath.
Right.
And so you have to sort of think about in reference to your character motivation. Now, again, you can tell stories without doing any of those things, but it generally elevates the complexity of the story and the access to it, the realism and the immersion, if you keep basically a consistent idea of what you want. There's this thing in writing where they call like mastery of your character. And at one point I was reading like it was Calvin and Hobbes, and it was a review on it, right? And they were talking about how the author has such a clear control of and mastery of the characters. They always seem to be themselves in every single frame.
Yes.
And the thing is if you've never read Calvin and Hobbes, it's a comic that covers so many different things.
Yes.
So the characters are often in very different situations, doing really different stuff, and they experience a wide range of emotions. But it's that thing where they do consistently seem to be themselves because they seem to have the same values, the same interests, and the same motivations.
It's
largely
basically,
throughout the whole
isn't
thing.
it basically about like a 10-year-old kid and basically his stuffed tiger, and that's it, and the hijinks they get up to.
And it's also about philosophy.
And it's also about philosophy. But I'm like, it just starts with that base, and it goes from there.
And basically, whether or not people know what they're accessing, the more you have essentially consistent values within the people that appear on screen, so that their motivations are cohesive with themselves, the more people are going to have access to your story.
Now, there's another thing also to keep in mind. One of the reasons that fiction, so even as much as we say also realism, we also have to acknowledge the fact that most fiction really is, even if it's fantasy, whatever it is actually a form of basically hyper-realism or just made up. Because one of the things is most people are incredibly, one, hypocritical and very inconcise, right? But with characters, there's usually a much larger expectation because you can go back and exactly have all the information and have all the details that you really do go, hey, here's point A and here's point B. Why the fuck did this suddenly happen?
I think you mean people are inconstant.
inconstant. Yes.
I'd say, and so the thing is you can have a character whose motivations change constantly and doesn't make any sense, but that can also be who their character is.
Oh, absolutely.
And so,
but what I'm saying is but typically what happens so we're going to end up doing a writing class, I swear to God. But one of the things is like that I've talked with several other authors about, and I've also listened to other people who are authors talk about it, is going like, characters really can't, in some ways, get away with the things that normal people, like real people, can, because number one, they're not real, and number two, because you do have their entire contained experience in front of you, you actually need to make them more consistent and more obvious, because otherwise you tend to actually lose your readers.
I would say there tends to be some level of it becoming an abstract story.
So like I said, otherwise, like again, you have to do that. You have to do that hyper-realism where we really point out things, we really try to, motion things and really be like, here's the connection, here's the,
Yep. I would say, and largely, your story doesn't have to have any plot, any like start and finish.
Not even slightly.
By having a consistent character that wanders through it is deeply valuable.
Uh-huh.
All right, so Asra is like, oh, this
me
is about
specifically.
me. About me,
sorry.
Just me specifically. Welcome back to the story. We're actually like reading a visual novel here. Hello.
Just so you know. And then Asra is actually like,
do you recall?
Hey, perhaps you recall actually when I imagine this is when you excused your actions by saying, I'm just sleeping better on the floor.
So when perhaps
when they apparently used to live together, Asra's basically saying you used to let Inanna sleep with me and you would sleep on the floor, claiming that you were doing fine there and it was actually better for you and you had a greater time, and that Inanna can just be on the bed, it's fine.
And again, kind of he's making a poke at going, so you have treated her excellently as well and given her privileges, which is what you're accusing me of doing.
Yes.
Because it's specifically only when you give her extra special treatment. And he's going, you've given her extra special treatment. But also there's that layer of doubleness here of going, you putting a space between us because that's the only place you can be intimate and you're still afraid of it.
Yeah.
And so talking again about their relationship through the wolf.
Yes.
This feels very, honestly, the scene feels very clever, even though it's sudden backlash. Why are we listening to them talk about this?
Yes.
Like,
and having literally no feelings, no reactions.
As a reader, Kohai has disappeared. They do not exist in this scene.
Nope.
I was gonna say,
well, they have just become basically a megaphone. It's just literally hills with white elephants. You're just listening to a conversation, and it's only exactly what you can hear.
I was gonna say, and so, but the thing is the scene's actually written kind of clever in they're talking about, Asra and Muriel are talking about the dog and using her to contrast the relationship they had.
Yes.
And very much to sort of poke at each other about, but this thing, well, but that thing. And let's sort of define the boundaries and experience of this.
Yeah. So, and then next, actually, Muriel blushes and looks a little bit frustrated, a little bit like,
And explains that being on the ground of the hut just makes Inanna uncomfortable. It makes her stiff
body
and hurty.
The spaces between her bones, they hurt.
She gets sore.
She got sore.
And then we describe that Inanna is breathing deeply and makes a noise of acknowledgement to what Muriel is saying, like
a sort of longing sigh is what I'd call that. Sort of like a dreamy, only if only.
I was gonna say, oh yeah, and then it's in response to suddenly we're petting her again and more.
Yeah, well, also
so, we haven't been mentioned at all since Muriel came over and Inanna deeply turtled into herself. There's been no discussion or mention of what she's doing now or what we're doing. But now, as Muriel says the line of the floor isn't good for her, we jump back to the wolf is breathing deeply and expressing a pleasure sound as she exhales, while Kohai just pets and pets and pets with the hands
I
in
need to
the
have
fluff.
the actual fucking definition for that, because I feel like that's not that, I'm really it seems like a longing or sentimental. Yeah, it's melancholic longing.
Yeah.
So the thing is somehow this is implying based on the previous thing that we just saw. That means that Inanna's not sleeping on the bed anymore?
Yeah, it sounds like she's missing her experience of sleeping on the bed, even as she's sort of reacting to us petting her.
Yeah, so I'm not really sure why they use that word, because I'm that seems weird. If it's about us petting her, And then...
So it's interesting because it's really, we're describing us petting her in reference to how her breathing is behaving, but the breathing seems to be directly in relation to, as an emotional expression to what Muriel said.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense otherwise. Why would she react that way to you petting her? Because that's why melancholic longing towards you petting her? What?
You're currently doing it. So it's got to be like a melancholic longing for, I used to get to sleep in the furs of the bed, and now, oh well. It's okay. Asra left all of his furs there, according to himself, so you should still be able to sleep on them.
Right?
Anyway, then Kohai describes that they think about ceasing petting, but
and they even pause.
And so they're like, okay, I'm going to stop moving my hands and start to remove them. And then Inanna is insistent with her face of don't do that.
Well, she immediately noses at your hand, basically, with her face. Just like,
stop.
Come back here. No. Keep petting me. Keep petting me.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
And immediately,
and then you're like, oh God, I'm going to be stuck here forever. Yep. And then apparently Kohai has been in an awkward position because then they have to actually get more comfortable on the floor next to the doggo so that they can keep petting.
It sounds like perhaps we had reached down to pet, and now we are getting down on our knees, or we're taking a seat.
We're sitting on a haunches.
Because we kind of been like just bended down. But again, we're not interacting with their conversation at all, nor reacting emotionally to anything they've said, nor do any of Kohai's feelings get described.
Not even slightly. And you want to know what's even worse? We're out of the scene.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's it.
That's the whole scene?
That's the whole scene.
So, yeah, so basically the scene is you get to... So, we observe Muriel basically chastising his dog, and then we have no reaction, no feedback, or no input whatsoever in the entire rest of the scene. And then when they come back to specifically focus on Kohai, Kohai has no thoughts, no emotional feels, no interaction, no even information as if they perceived the conversation.
You know what I think is funny? I wonder, honestly, if it was supposed to meant to be like the humorous anime betrayal thing. My dog has betrayed my innermost feelings. How could you kind of thing? Because I've seen that before.
Right.
You know, where you're like, you but fucking dog, you don't like these things.
Right.
Dog.
No, I told you.
No, I hate these. Ooh, yes. You know, or just like sweat drops everywhere. You know, if you say, like, I could see how it could be humorous, but like taking it completely serious because I have no other clues as to anything else, and we still don't know Inanna, nor do we know Muriel very well.
Right.
The flattest way I've ever read that is just like, that just seems really aggressive. Like, that was kind of frightening. And I'm not kidding. Muriel was just furious, and I'm like, holy fuck, my dude.
And I don't know if it's limited facial expressions, because I know, like, I had some trouble with Nadia sometimes.
Yes.
Because of the limited facial descriptions and expressions for wide ranges of things, but were established from, in my mind, to mean a certain thing.
Right.
But the weirdest thing about that scene for me was Kohai did not react emotionally or intellectually or in any other way to anything they said, and didn't even remark that Muriel had moved away, or his attention was no longer on them, or I feel more relaxed now that he's not glaring at the wolf. Nothing. Or it's interesting that, anything.
Yeah, so Kohai has no interpretations, basically. Because again, I'm like, I don't think that they have any personal feelings. It's just word of God coming through.
The writing for that scene was not about having your MC involved. It was about showing the reader something. That scene, in my mind, should have happened without Kohai in the room.
Yes. But the thing is that they're really set on going, but your character has to be here. And I'm like, yeah, but like, if they're not going to have any feelings about it, what the fuck?
Yeah, if they have no thoughts, no feelings, no reaction.
Which is really weird, because again, your character has literally expressed they have want to have extreme feelings about everything that Asra has been involved in, basically.
And they want knowledge.
And they want knowledge. So suddenly dipping off and going, I don't care about anything and I don't exist, is really fucking... It's just stupid.
This is also consistent, though, with a lot of what we noticed in Julian's route, where anytime there were multiple people talking,
for the most
the
part,
MC would disappear.
Yep.
Even when there was some scenes near late game where it was the MC had exactly the information needed for the conversation happening.
Yep.
It would happen around them without them contributing or reacting to or thinking about it at all. Just basically their first-person perspective relaying what they saw and heard to you, of everyone standing in front of them.
It really reminds me of basically just sort of hanging out, watching a series and going, well, this character is more like a vehicle, so you can watch all the hot people dance around you, and once in a while they remember you exist so they can go, hey, let me be hot to you. Because it is about you. And so remember how we said also in the fucking night one, with the wolf.
Right. When the Night Comes.
Yeah, When the Night Comes, where it really felt like it was a sort of like a play or a display put on for the player, and that was really creepy.
In several cases, yeah. It felt like this is not about the story, this is not involved in the story, and this isn't just a let's segue for fan service, it's let's try and write in a scene that is deliberately like sexual and shippy, but is for the reader, but the character
in a sort of titillating kind of
interacts
fashion.
with it in a I own this kind of way, or this is for me.
It was really uncomfortable.
And the characters were not performing for the MC. So it was very strange. Anyway,
really strange.
with a ragged cloth dipped in warm water, Muriel starts to clean the blood from her mouth. Asra stares into the fire. So again, no thoughts or feelings on any of this?
Nope, none.
And also, I did not react when Muriel moved over here, because he had to get closer to us, and he also had to go to the pot and get the water somehow, and put the rag into it, and then get to Inanna's face, which was bonking against my wrist last I had experienced, and start washing her. So there's no acquiring of the dog's face, getting close to the dog, bringing his body closer to me, because none of those things matter anymore now that it's not immediately relevant to the scene they want to write next, so I don't react to them.
Yes, and also that was a premium scene, so they really can't have any reaction to it, because what if you didn't pick it?
Right. And the thing is also...
And I'm like, you should have just written more and then just cut something else out.
I would say, also, since we've been reacting very strongly to Muriel's presence...
Yes!
This entire scene, every time he moves, we're hyper aware. Having him suddenly be touching and physically down on the floor with the dog we've been petting, who is flopped over on her side because he doesn't describe she stands up or moves or he picks her up or anything.
Nope.
It seems like him getting that completely close to you would be something you would mention.
Yes.
Like you would mention where his body is physically in the room, but that doesn't happen.
No comprende.
At any rate,
that's just going to continue to stare into the fire until the next one.
He is going to contemplate for a long time.
Yay! So thank you very much, everybody, actually, for joining us.
Yeah.
We also appreciate Draconisha for the lovely art, which we're going to look at
let's look at the art
now.
I want to see it.
As we're going to be ending out here, we appreciate having y'all along for the ride. All right, let's pap it up.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's freaking adorable.
Anana looks so cute.
Wow.
And Koi looks so happy.
Oh,
Muriel looks very
that.
grumpy, just like, like angsty grumpy kind of thing. That's really cute. I love the colors on Kohai's clothes.
Oh, they look so good.
That's super cute.
It's so soft. I love it.
I'm
like, Draconisha, I do not understand. Where you're like, no, it's just scribbles. Me. It's not scribbles. These are beautiful.
These are beautiful scribbles. If that is your scribbles, your art is amazing.
Your art is amazing.
We both really enjoy your art, so yes.
Yeah, and like I said, it's very quick, very much conveys the idea of the scene. Thank you so much still for doing these. These are fantastic.
They are lovely.
So yeah, thank you also everybody else again for joining us. If you would like to support us, please feel free to continue to like, comment, subscribe. Sharing the videos still does a lot for us in regards to the YouTube algorithm, and it's been helping us out a lot. We really appreciate it. Yep. Please also feel free to go check out our Ko-Fi, our Patreon, and our Twitch. There are links in the description, and we would love to see you there at those locations. And I have been Scandal.
And again, if you want to talk to us live, that's what we do on Twitch.
That's what we do!
And we respond to comments immediately, because we're both always there.
We are!
And I have been Lies. And it was great playing with you! Bye!